such a shame we have to tell all those little white lies. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And translation is sacred. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film Okja.
Okja.
That is right.
New film from Bong Joon Ho. Something I'm very excited about. Have you seen many Bong Joon Ho films?
Just Snowpiercer, but also new film from Netflix.
Yes, and controversially so, as it turns out at the Cannes Film Festival. Now, someone could write in and tell me if I get the chronology of this incorrect, but as I understand it,
okay,
this film was slated to play at Cannes, and I think it was slated to play
because at Cannes.
At Cannes. It was slated to play in competition, but then was removed from competition when distributors got upset at the fact that a Netflix film could be in competition. And I think distributors are upset at this idea that a film that they would want to put in theaters would also be simultaneously available on Netflix, because that entirely undercuts their business.
Oh, man. Someone's mad because someone found a better way to do a thing and is making money off it? That's so just unique and a problem.
Well, I agree with you, because I'm happy, but I'm happy to watch this on the small screen. But
our screens are pretty big.
Our screens are pretty big. We both have projectors in our living room, so we can watch this on a big screen. So it's not that big a deal. And in fact, I think both Bong Joon Ho has come out and said you should watch this in a theater.
Sure,
but it's not playing.
Well, then how's that gonna work?
No, but you can't. It was playing in theaters.
Oh,
it was playing in theaters simultaneously. But then the thing is, not many distributors wanted to play it because they're like, why would I play this movie that's available on Netflix at the same time?
Right, because then it's taking up screen real estate.
And then it gets into this bigger question of like, well, if Cannes isn't going to award it awards because of its distribution method, what is Cannes awarding then? Like, why do they give awards out? Are they giving awards out because of films? Like, if this was the best film that played at Cannes, but it was couldn't be eligible for awards because it was on Netflix, what does that say about the Cannes awards? And I think it
makes them pretty shitty.
Yeah, it opens up a couple of interesting questions. Obviously the whole film festival awards thing is a big machine.
Yeah, you know what though? That's the thing. It's not an interesting question, Shahir, because anyone who pays more than 2 seconds of fleeting attention to any of these things knows exactly why they all exist.
What do you mean, the film festival?
Film festivals in general.
I mean,
now, granted, like everything, like the things in Okja, which we will get to, there's good and bad in all of this. And the good, obviously, is a young filmmaker, upstart people can bring their films to festivals. It will get seen, perhaps even sold, and then their career is off to the races. And that's great. The darker side of festivals is 9 times out of 10, it's all literally marketing, and it doesn't really matter one way or the other because the piper will get paid at the end of the day.
I always love there's a statistic for the amount of films that get submitted for the Sundance Short Film Festival is always actually more than a human being or an entire team of human beings could watch in a year. And so the question is like, how do they actually review these films?
Money, money, money.
Yeah, it does. I have definitely witnessed the value of having a name attached to your film in terms of how it propels your film to the top of a list that would otherwise, like for no reason be there.
Yeah,
I've definitely seen that happen.
When did that happen?
I can't say.
You can't say?
I can't say.
You can't say.
No, it wasn't the Cannes Film Festival, but I can't.
So you can't say.
I can't.
But if it was Cannes, you can't.
Is it the Cannes or the Cannes?
Who the fuck knows?
Cannes Film Festival.
I don't even care because honestly, look, I am all about platforms for new movies.
Yeah.
You know what's a platform for new movies? Netflix. So chill the fuck out, festivals.
Well, but this is interesting though, because I've been watching a few Netflix originals in the last couple of weeks. And I tweeted out about this. It just got me thinking. I watched two or three documentaries. I watched Get Me Roger Stone.
Okay.
And Nobody Speak. And then Okja, obviously.
Sure.
And the thing that I got thinking about was, can a distribution company have a political identity?
Can they not?
Can they not have a political identity?
Yeah. I think we're learning through a lot of, if you want to call what's going on politics right now, that everything and everyone is political at the end of the day, because there's always, I don't want to get too.
No, I think this is interesting.
This doesn't sound, and this isn't meant to sound conspiratorial, but there's always another puppet master. There's always someone in charge of the person who's in charge.
I guess what I'm saying is that we know that directors, for example, have interests that they are, that they pursue, that we know that Steven Spielberg is going to be always about these kinds of films. He's only going to make these kinds of films. Christopher Nolan's only going to make these kinds of films. And we've talked a lot about A24 this year. I think it's interesting to note that Netflix itself as a distribution platform seems to have, in my opinion, just judging by those 3 films I watched this year, a fairly left-leaning political identity.
Sure.
Maybe, and it may be also the case that this year every network has a response to our current political situation.
When's the last time you saw a really, really, really well-made right-leaning film?
Yeah, I mean, there was who's that? Dennis Souza, I forget his name, but he made, and he's a terrible filmmaker, but he made a film about the Obama conspiracies or something.
Sure.
That was like number 1 in that circle for a little while.
There's just something, and I just, let's get political. Let's fucking do this before we start talking about the industrial meat industry.
Yeah.
Look, if all of the artists and scientists are on a particular side, that's really the side that I'd like to be on, and not all, the majority. Yeah. Like, and so when you look to the other side of the aisle, and you don't have many
welcome to all our Republican listeners.
Well, I mean, and so actually, this can transition beautifully into contacting us, because I would love to, especially when in conjunction with maybe something that brings up with Okja or anything like that. Let's keep it sort of movie related. That's
or not. Just talk about whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, movie stuff will get us on the thing at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Because and that's the other thing too. I would like. Yeah, this is what I want you here. I would like any of our Republican listeners or anybody to send us the names of right-leaning films that they consider excellent.
It's what's interesting is I think
I would love to see one. I'm not being pedantic.
But for example, I would argue that films like Transformers, for example, speak well to Republican listeners.
No, I said a good film.
But you know what I mean? Like, those are big movies. They're not I
didn't say big. I said well made and good.
Okay.
So there is a difference.
Transformers, let's say, I mean, I would bank that.
You are right, though. I think Transformers would
probably... I'm sure like a lot of big, bolshy, Michael Bay-ish, you could argue films like by Peter Berg this year.
American Sniper.
Not American Sniper. That's Clint Eastwood. American Sniper would be a film that would speak really well.
I thought of for whatever reason. I know it's the trifecta of Wahlberg. Any movie Mark Wahlberg's in, maybe.
Well, what was the Patriots Day one?
Patriots Day.
Yeah.
The oil one. No, the oil one was not. Deepwater Horizon painted a
fairly. So a friend of mine has a really good theory about this. He said, because there's always this thing about liberal Hollywood elites and like the left-leaning media and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
And his argument is that the thing about being a lefty or being in the arts means you have to have empathy, because you have to like if you're going to make a film about another topic, you have to empathize and put yourself in those shoes in order to make the most effective film.
Yep.
And he believes that inherently that is the foundational thing that makes you slightly left-leaning.
That's entirely possible.
As opposed to conservatively leaning.
Much like facts drive science.
Yeah.
And you sort of have to build an ideology around facts until they are proven otherwise and whatnot. And facts sometimes, whether they're good, bad, or ugly, if you believe in them, which you probably should, then they're going to point you in a specific direction no matter what your leaning is.
But then, it's interesting. I've had conversations with faith-believing scientists, for example.
You can have faith and still believe in science. I'm not talking about that. In fact, I honestly think there's a bit actually we can get into again in Okja that sort of speaks to that slightly.
Yeah.
It's just they're not mutually exclusive. Just like nothing is mutually exclusive. The less we put ourselves into bins, the
Beyonce
better.
and Jay-Z are mutually exclusive. at this point.
You'd be surprised.
I mean, they've made albums about, like
about not being mutually exclusive.
But, like solidifying the relationship at this point.
And you know what drives that?
Money.
Maybe. I don't know. I was going to say pure love here. You're jaded. Man, I need to crack a beer. We're 10 minutes in. This is awful. Jesus.
Well, so people can contact us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod, or go to our Facebook page, the only podcast about movies, to write us in. And before we get into Okja, I think we've got to address some elephants in the room.
There's a ton of email and Twitter elephants that we've been trying to deal with for the past couple of weeks, and we forgot. So apologies to all of you lovely listeners.
Well, I don't think we forgot as much as we kind of decided we're going to bundle them all up into this episode, right? Like, I mean, we had Movie Bob on last week, and we didn't want to go through like 20 minutes of email with Movie Bob on the show.
He ain't got time for that.
Exactly. So it seems like It Comes at Night, Baby Driver, all hot topics on the message board. So hit it, Matt. You want to go first?
Yeah. So let's see. I'm going to pull up good old Jacob. Here we go. Jacob, good friend of the show. He has he apologizes for being MIA.
Yeah, always chimes in. We're very happy to have you on. In fact, I'm going to do some of the Facebook hits, and Jacob's in that as well.
So here we go. He says he absolutely loved It Comes at Night. He thought it worked great in every aspect and can't fault a single thing, which I feel falls more into your category here. He goes further into, says, Matt, I have to completely disagree with you on the grave, but not showing whatever they were looking at. You complained that both the boy and the dog see something in the woods, and we as an audience never get to see it. I think showing anything physical on screen would be completely detrimental to the film as a whole. I agree. And he goes on. It says a couple.
It's a very long email. By the way, Jacob, we do appreciate these.
Yeah,
emails.
And we read them all. We're not going to read because we have like 9 emails to go through. But I hope I was. I guess I wasn't clear. I didn't want that film to show me a big bad monster in the woods. I didn't want it to become like, evil of the week or anything sort of like that. I'm just saying that a lot of the direction the film was throwing you was saying like was pointing you in that direction, and maybe that was a little bit of the marketing, and maybe that was a little bit of something else, but they seem to put such a presence, such an importance on them seeing a thing. I don't need to see the thing. I just need to know that they actually saw a thing. Right. If that makes sense. So I don't need a giant tendril monster. I just wanted a little more. It could stay ambiguous. I just needed the characters. I needed it to feel like the characters knew that they saw a thing.
Okay.
Regardless. As far as the rules and the key, we always go back to the key with me. He goes, here's my take. Those rules they set up, those aren't the rules for the movie. Those are personal rules for the family within the movie. It's what the family should follow, but not the movie. It's very reasonable for the audience to come to the conclusion that Travis sleepwalks, shot the dog, and he brought it back into the house. He's a teenager. He would be able to easily take the key while his father's sleeping and blah, blah. We continue on about that. I think we covered that, our sort of things very clearly. I'm glad, Jacob, that it worked for you. I just, like I even said in the episode, I think a little bit of editing in that scene could have saved me a long way from on a personal side. But again, I don't want to. I like it when movies work for people.
Well, it's because on the other side of this, there's an email from friend of the show, Will Temper.
That is right.
Which is
who was infuriated
by the ending of the film.
Yes, he says. Will says, well, I certainly agree with both of you for different aspects. The film shot beautifully. He liked a lot of stuff, but the third act let him down completely. He blames the marketing a lot of this because the movie is very deceptive. The 2 main posters depict the character standing in front of the red door and the other one of a dog looking out into the dark field. Right off the bat, we're led to believe that there is something more sinister than man in the woods. I completely agree with that, and I think maybe our opinions were tainted by the advertising.
Right.
And again, this is the interesting things about these sort of discussions. That's not the filmmaker's fault.
Right.
You make a deal to make a movie that then makes a deal with an advertising agency, and they go at it the best way they think is possible. And someone watched this movie and thought, you know what? We can sell this as a horror flick. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did.
And of course, as we know, I don't tend to watch those trailers. I just I knew that.
So in this case, you win in that regard.
We also had CJ on Facebook chime in on this with, again, Shahir, I agree with everything he said. Vibe on Krisha. It was his best film of 2016.
Everyone in emails has said that, by the way. No matter who goes down the line, it's either I need to see Krisha or Krisha is wonderful.
Yeah, it is. And then Matt, Get Over the Key, which I think you actually retorted to him quite well. He said, I think, Matt, you replied with, yeah, I would have if the movie had. Or no, I would. So you.
Oh, what was it? What was the actual quote? I was so proud of my smug, stupid self.
Right. It was something about.
It was like I
need to get over the key, just like the movie did, or something.
Yeah. It was beautiful. Go check out our Twitter feed on that if you really want the deep dive.
You're calling your quote beautiful,
but no, because it was, and it was a great sort of because then we all laughed about it at the end, and it was very fun.
One thing in terms of the marketing of It Comes at Night, there was a release of the DVD cover for the film. That came out yesterday. Matt, I want to show you this and just see what you think about this.
Okay, everyone look this up.
This is the proposed DVD cover for It Comes at Night.
I mean, it's bad compositionally.
Yeah.
But it's more honest. It's a more honest representation of what the movie is about. But then I wonder, and look it up for yourselves.
Okay, well, just so people can describe it, it's a photo of Joel Edgerton holding a gun out towards the camera,
like
low, like he's pointing at it. But it appears like he's protecting Riley Coe and Baby.
Yeah, it's completely deceptive as to what happens in the movie. But then again, so was the original advertising. So,
but the thing that kind of irks me about this is the erasure of his actual family who happen to be African Americans. Oh,
yeah.
And
what about that?
You know, and this image makes it look like this is his family.
It's almost as if someone heard some complaints and then swung way too far to the other side.
I don't know what the thinking is, but it's this is a movie that I think will be written in the ages for potentially a good abject lesson in marketing, in film marketing. I remember there was a movie,
sorry, and I think that's very true because even Jacob said in his screening there were some kids that were being loud and ruling. He actually told them to shut up, and they did, which is always a wonderful feeling. And then he said how afterward, everyone, like people in the audience were like, "Fuck, that movie was awful. That ending sucked. I want my money back." And that's apparently a thing that's happening, which I do honestly think is half the marketing's problem.
Well, it's the classic. I think the case of the person suing the producers of Drive for like mis-selling that movie. I think it's an interesting case to hear out because to me it bears out the question is how responsible is marketing for selling you the correct thing.
I think it's only responsible when it comes to something that you're putting on or in your body, like as far as like a food item or cosmetic.
But for example, parents have a reasonable right of expectation to understand that if they're going to take their kid to see Finding Nemo,
that's different. That's a content thing, not a style thing.
No, but that is a content question. Like she was expecting it to be the Fast and the Furious, and it was Drive.
This is what I think. Buyer beware. To a certain point, in the sense that whenever I'm buying anything of any substantial monetary value, I research it at least a little bit.
Okay.
And that's something that I just feel like any responsible human being / consumer should do. If you just go blindly out, then guess what? You get to go blindly out. And that's a great sort of choice. And when you choose to do it, that's wonderful. But you can't complain. I hate Drive. Right. I hate Drive. I would never ask for my money back from Drive.
Right. I'm again, I think it's an interesting legal question as to what
I think people are crybabies. There's another email. Speaking of babies, Baby Driver email from our friend Stephen Buja. He says, "Hey guys, love the conversation about Edgar Wright. Had a thought about why the music may not have hit as hard in Baby why the music may not have hit as hard in Baby Driver as it did in Guardians, the music itself. He said the very few songs in Baby Driver are woven in into the deep pop culture fabric, whereas you have like Elio and Fleetwood Mac and Cat Stevens, which are certifiable hits in Guardians. I think a lot of emotional resonance comes from one's previous experiences with those songs. Just a thought. Hope you're all well." Yes.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious to see what Steven's reaction to the songs in Baby Driver was. I think my thing was they hit in two different directions. One is that I didn't know the songs in Baby Driver. There was a Young MC track in Baby Driver that I thought really, really landed.
But I'll tell you, I've been listening to that fucking Bell Bottom song a lot.
Yeah, and it's working?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Does it remind you of the film, or do you like the song on its own?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to where Steven landed on that whole thing. I think we went back and forth on a bunch of episodes about this.
The difference for me is a food analogy, because I always go back, is so in Baby Driver, the music is the meat or potatoes or soy or whatever, the main piece of your dish. And in Guardians, it is, in my opinion, the perfect spice for whatever you're eating, in the sense that it would be good. Otherwise, I'm not saying Baby Driver wouldn't be good without it. It would just be something completely different. Like, it's so interwoven in what the film is doing, whereas you could change out Never Break the Chain to a different song about family, or something. I mean, not that Never Break the Chain's about that, but like, you could change it out and it might still have the same emotional resonance depending on how the film was built.
And I think my argument here is that whether the music is integral to the way the film is kind of, and it's odd because in Baby Driver, that's what it is. But I still felt like very few of those songs landed in a way that like had me kind of on the edge of my seat, kind of thing. And but you know, it seems to be working for a lot of people, and more proud to it. I love on Twitter as well. People, one of our Twitter, Bane Creek, has been calling out just problems with Baby Driver. You know, it's an interesting thing that people are like really responding to that movie, saying, "Yeah, I love it." But then when they actually go deep into it, they're like, "Oh, well, this didn't actually work," and it has a lot to do with the third act.
I think it worked.
I mean, I just, you know, but the thing is here is, you know, again, I think I said this on the episode, and I think, you know, I'll say it again here, which is that.
Hey, say it again here.
I don't, you know, like we're speaking margins of like 1 or 2 points if we were scoring this. It's not like we're like I'm saying that this is a 4 out of 10 and Matt's saying it's an 8 out of 10. It's like 1 or 2 degrees difference. It's still an excellent film.
Yeah.
So well worth checking out.
We got another tweet.
Got another tweet.
I feel like this is our mailbag episode.
I know, this is our mailbag episode so far. Again, another shout out to Krisha. We had I think the actual actress from Krisha retweet us a couple of times. Yeah, which is
for
nice.
Real?
Yeah.
Aww,
which is nice.
That's sweet.
We'd love to have you on the show.
Yeah, come on.
Jacob again tweeting us, just catching up on all episodes. You should absolutely do an episode on Stoker. Brilliant film, very underseen. I absolutely agree. That's another Park Chan-wook film that we should do.
We're going to have to figure out time displacement apparatus, because Shahir and I, we were even discussing today some other podcast business, and holy shit, guys, not to sound like assholes, but we're very busy. Shahir has a son. I have a crippling video game addiction and a lot of work to do on the various nonsense TV shows I make. And yeah, it's we live a block from each other at this point. And it's so hard to get it. But I will say
it's 20 to midnight right now.
Yeah.
This is the only time we could actually get together.
And but here's the thing, and I now I'm going to get mushy. We both, I think, and I'm going to speak for Shahir on this, he can cancel me if I'm wrong, but we both really love doing this.
I hate doing it.
And Shahir hates it, but I really love it. And I'm so thankful for all of these emails. We're going to finish it up and actually talk about Okja in a moment, but I'm so thankful for all these emails, tweets, Facebook conversations you guys have with us, because there's nothing I love more, with the exception maybe of Overwatch, than discussing film with people. And you guys are an awesome community, and I really appreciate sort of the dialogue we have back and forth. And I love it when Shahir and I's polarizing
we find people that are on both sides.
Yes, which is interesting, which leads us to believe, at least leads me to believe, that no one is right.
Although we'd like to each believe that we are individually correct all the time. Another tweet, Facebook, for a message from Baby Driver. Again, just on that music thing. Absolutely adored Baby Driver. Not a single thing I can say bad about it. And it's the ultimate definition of what I consider to be fun, which being good plays no part in. In fact, I feel like the worse a movie is, the more fun it becomes.
Who is this?
This is Jacob on Facebook. Okay. Gotcha. A lot of these emails are from one person.
I love that Jacob keeps talking. Keep fucking sending shit, man.
That's why movies like The Room, Thanks Killing, Troll Hunter, etc. even exist. They're so bad that they're fun to watch. And I responded to this. I appreciate the sentiment. I don't think that Baby Driver falls into the so bad.
Oh yeah, I disagree too.
I completely disagree with that.
But we probably do for different reasons.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to say is that the barometer of good shouldn't be included in the discussion of fun, which is something that we were talking about, which is I think that something should be fun and good.
And I think Baby Driver was both things. So
yeah, I actually think Baby Driver was both things as well. But yeah, let's keep that conversation going, because I think if you boil down every 100, what are we at, 112
this
episodes?
is 111.
111 episodes we've done. I think that's the overall thesis of this entire podcast is what is fun and what is good.
And why do you hate it?
Yeah. What is fun, what is good? Where is the Venn diagram between those two things that we'd like to live in?
You're being serious and I'm telling a joke.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
To be fair, it's a bad joke.
It's a great joke. I'm having really fun doing it, and it explains why
if you have to reiterate it, it's obviously a good joke.
And I know. So it's a great joke. Best joke. Gareth writes us in. Gareth, first of all, kudos to your name sounding so similar to Jareth from The Labyrinth. First of all, he says, I haven't listened yet to the Alien episode or your name.
So Gareth, I'll just back this up a little bit.
Sure.
You're coming in at the end of the chain here. Gareth wrote in wanting us to review both Interstellar. He wanted us to review some Christopher Nolan films in anticipation of Dunkirk, and also he wanted us to get into animated films because Gareth is an animator, which is as indicated by the lovely icon that he sends with his emails. And he had this great quote here. And this is a really good reason why I do want to do some more animated films, though I did point out that we had just done Your Name. I watched Tangled on the weekend, and the more I think about it, the more I realize that it's not necessarily for adults or kids. We have to admit to ourselves that animated movies are not just for kids. There are a ton of great ones out there that are hilarious, engaging, satisfying to me as an adult. And besides, on the topic of maturity, because he was like, do you guys not review animated films because you guys are too mature for it? He goes, but on the topic of maturity, you guys review superhero movies and Swiss Army Man.
And we did Lego Batman.
And we did Lego Batman, and we did Your Name. But he did.
Are those the only two animated movies we've done?
I believe so. At this point, some of these superhero movies are like 90% animated at this point. So
you don't say. Well, Garrett, listen, I would love to do animated. I would love to do animated films. Side note, Tangled has been on my need to watch list for a very long time. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about it. Like it's this brand new and already forgotten Disney classic.
He mentioned some things about, because he's an animator. He talks about the way the animation is a horse, but also a puppy dog and a no nonsense sassy human. It's amazing that the animation kind of encapsulates all that into one character.
Gareth, I want to give you a little bit of homework. Friend of the show, James Portnow, does extra credits on YouTube, but they have a side thing with Daniel, who is the narrator of and co-creator of Extra Credits. They have a thing called Extra Frames, and it's mostly video game animation, but they do wonderful, just beautiful sort of breakdowns of why various animations work. And Garrett, if you haven't seen that, check out Extra Frames on YouTube. It's a masterclass in certain things about why animation works and pulls at certain emotions.
He would like us to review Zootopia and Nemo.
Done. Nemo. I think everything that's been said about Nemo has already been said.
It's a wonderful film. But he wants to take you to task on your opinion of The Martian.
Wait. So hold on. Can we talk about this? Yes. So he's calling me out for calling The Martian Oscar bait, and I guess I did that on the Alien. Which
Alien
one?
Covenant episode.
Okay. I don't remember doing that. I don't disagree with the statement.
I think it was one of our guests.
Was it Francesca or Patrick?
Might have called it Oscar.
And I agree.
And you agreed with it.
But again, I don't have a problem with Oscar bait if it's doing other things other than being Oscar bait.
Right.
And I feel like The Martian did. I have no problem with The Martian, but remember how we were trying to defend The Martian to Francesca and Patrick? Go back and listen to the Alien Covenant episode for this. Because they hated it. And then they almost swayed me because I remember really liking it, but then I've never had a desire to watch The Martian again. Now, that's not to say it's a bad movie, but it's a single serving movie. And therefore, I don't know how passionate I want to be to defend it to people that don't like it.
Right. But even if it's a single, there's lots of movies that you only watch once in your life, right? Because
I would be like, if some of those, I'd be like, oh man, you got it. Everyone has to see this. I would not say, oh, everyone has to see The Martian. It was fun and I had a good time watching it, but I would never feel pressured. If someone was like, should I watch The Martian? I'd be like, yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I think I agree. I'm in the same camp on that, and I think my point of view came from like where does it fit on the Ridley Scott oeuvre? And
There's that word again.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Fair enough. I think we do at some point need to revisit this term Oscar bait because we
should do an Oscar bait episode.
Yeah, because I think we need to define the parameters of the way you use that term.
Fine.
At some point, but at any rate, Gareth was not a fan of the way you may have characterized The Martian, and
Sure.
so
And you know what? And I'll
we're
even
going to issue an apology here.
I don't know about that. I think that maybe there's a bit of an apology because the more I think about it, if we're gonna, and I don't want to, we could spend the entire episode talking about what is or isn't Oscar bait. The Martian has a lot of qualities of Oscar bait, but I do think a quintessential core of a film that is Oscar bait is the drive behind choices that it made in its production. I think that the Martian was not driven by those choices. Again, this is purely subjective. Like, this is subjective.
No, people are listening in. They want to know your opinion on on Oscar bait.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think the Martian checks a lot of the boxes, but it doesn't do it on purpose. Let's just end it with that. So okay. I'm sorry, the Martian, and I'm sorry,
Gareth.
Yes, Gareth. I'm sorry, but you know what? If you were the Goblin King, you would have made me say sorry way earlier. All right,
that's a reference I don't get, but I'm feeling like you're sorry.
Labyrinth,
sorry,
you son of a bitch.
Sorry, not sorry. Moving on. Okja. We finally made it. We
got one more email.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Oh,
ready? It's my favorite one.
Okay, which one's that?
This is from Jerry. I want to read it in its entirety.
Jerry.
Jerry, ready?
Oh, yes,
yeah, you know.
yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay.
Camille and your guest, quote, Bob, ? Are way too cynical and picky in your review. As opposed to the saying, grow up, I'd say grow down a little and just try to have some fun and appreciate what an awesome superhero movie this is. You sound like dicks. It is not Fellini. It's for kids, as you presumably once were. Regards, and I love the sign-off, Buddha Head.
Jerry.
I mean, so
this is Camille signing in here. It's your boy Camille.
Camille. Wow. Yeah. First of all, I mean, we can get.
I think this person's doing a disservice to your argument about like, oh, it's just a movie for kids. Like this.
Well, I think he's also doing a disservice, possibly to not taking the time. If you're going to write us an email, and I love that you did, but getting names right and questioning names that like. I just love that there's a question mark after Bob. I mean, all of our names are in the show graphic.
Who knows? I attribute it like getting Camille to Shahir. Getting from Shahir to Camille is kind of a straight.
Wait, could I be Camille?
Kroll? No, because you're not.
You're right.
You're not
right.
cynical and picky about. And it's not picky, by the way. The word is pricky. Cynical and pricky.
I watered it down.
Yeah.
I PG-13'd it.
Camille, let's talk because we mentioned about
it's your boy Camille.
It's your boy Camille.
We're all a little Camille.
Yeah, we're all a little Camille.
Kamazel,
Camille,
Haas and Pfeffer Incorporated.
What's his name? Camille Nanjananli, who's from Silicon Valley, who's doing The Big Sick.
Yes.
Maybe he's referring to him.
Yeah,
because we all know each other.
I don't know him.
I do because I'm.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Race joke.
I gotcha. No, I don't think Jerry was making an inadvertent race joke there or anything like that. One thing you know about being brown, however, is that, and with an ethnic name, is that everyone's going to get it wrong at some point. I would say grow down a little and try to have some fun and appreciate what is an awesome superhero movie this is. I think in that, you're already adding a qualifier to the word movie, and I think maybe the reason I'm kind of saying it's an okay movie is I don't want to qualify it by saying it's a great superhero movie, but it's an okay movie. I think we should just review them as movies. We're the only podcast about movies, not the only podcast about superhero movies.
If only that were true. No, I'm kidding. I don't even want to do that.
I want to bring up a tweet from Matt Stoller's Sites, who's the critic over at Slate, I believe, or something like that.
Do what you want.
Who talked about that face you make when somebody tells you they love movies but only cares about Star Wars, superhero, and Quentin Tarantino. And I think what he's talking about is that there's such a breadth of movies outside of that, and if you really are passionate about movies, then you will go and try to find everything outside of that, and you will not be discriminatory against genres that you may or may not be if you truly love the medium. And I think, you know, my response to that to your question is that I want my kid to watch good movies. I don't want them to watch good superhero movies. I want them to watch good movies, full stop.
And I think this is where, so I agree with some of his sentiment, just not tone.
Right.
And I think like it is part, the marketing is for kids, but I think in Spider-Man Homecoming particularly thing, it's more of a I think what works on the adult level, even if it didn't work for some people like Shahir, you and Bob completely, is that it hits on a nostalgic level. And it doesn't do its nostalgia cheaply, as a lot of sort of nostalgia does, but it reminds you of the experiences you had as a kid, which I don't think you'll get the same emotional resonance of if you actually are a kid. You'll get a different emotional resonance. So I think it works on two different levels. So I do honestly believe that this Spider-Man Homecoming is not just for kids. Superhero movies are not just for kids.
Yeah, and I agree. They shouldn't just be for kids. That's
Finding Dory isn't just for kids, even though it's marketed that way. Like there's things for, and it kind of goes back to our previous thing to Gareth's email about animation and it being, you know, kids movies or whatnot, or adult movies. So yeah, I don't know. I just think Camille, I think you just need to relax a little bit.
Yeah, just relax about...
But thank you, Jerry. Thank you, everyone who wrote in. Write us in some more. onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Check us out on Twitter at onlymoviepod. Send us all this stuff. Also, I just want to say one last thing, and I promise in the next 5 minutes we will get to Okja. We might have to put a time stamp to tell people when that starts. Shahir and I, with our very extensive just free time, I would like to put out an ask of sort of what other sort of, if we had all the time in the world, what other content would you guys like to see from us? We've talked about doing short form YouTube stuff. We've talked about doing sort of deep dives into specific terminology. Hell, we just almost pitched an idea of doing a podcast about the term Oscar bait. Like, so like if there's anything in particular, even beyond like review this movie or this type of movie, if you'd like to see us do more like different type of stuff, please send us suggestions. We'd love to hear them. And if we ever get some free damn time, we would love to try to do
so
it.
You're saying we'd love the suggestions. We can't guarantee we'll do them.
Yeah. Well, until that beautiful day when we feel comfortable enough to start a Patreon or do something weird, then yeah. And maybe they'll become tiers of that sort of thing. But we're a little ways off from that.
All right. Okja.
Okja. I feel like we've done the movie a disservice already by taking 30 minutes to do other things because
this is a movie deserving of a long conversation.
Sure.
But the thing is, you've just watched it as well.
Yes.
You literally just watched it, like finished it 10, 15 minutes ago.
And IMDb, well, now 45 minutes ago after that conversation, IMDb coins the plot of Okja as meet Miha. Or Mija or Miha?
Mija, I think it's Mija. Mija?
Yeah,
Mija.
Yeah. Meet Mija, a young girl who risks everything to prevent a powerful multinational company from kidnapping her best friend, a fascinating animal named Okja.
I mean, it's not wrong, but that's actually a really badly written.
It's I hate whenever someone's like, meet so and so. They're a thing that does the stuff and things. And
but it was like a fascinating animal named Okja. That's so weird. That's
fascinating.
A fascinating animal.
I feel like this is Mr. Data reading awful plot synopses from 90s rom-coms.
Okay, so Bong Joon Ho, you've seen Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer, baby.
Have you seen any of his other films?
Fun fact: Snowpiercer, only film I own as a digital only buy from iTunes.
Oh, really? It was on Netflix for a while as well.
I know.
I love Bong Joon Ho. The only film of his I haven't seen is Barking Dogs Never Bite, which I think was his first movie. Memories of Murder.
Oh, that reminds me of a really bad dad joke.
Okay.
My dad used to tell this joke. So two people walk by and one of them has a dog. And he goes, "Oh, is that your dog?" "Yes." No, sorry. He goes, "Oh, does your dog bite?" And the other guy goes, "No, my dog doesn't bite." And he goes to pet him and the dog bites him. He's like, "I thought you said your dog doesn't bite." He's like, "That's not my dog."
Moving on. Barking Dogs Don't Bite is his first movie, which I haven't seen. Other than that, Memories of Murder, I think, is his absolute masterpiece. It is. It's one of the only Blu-rays I bought from Korea, like on a specific order. It cost me $90. Like I just had to own this movie. I owned it on DVD, and then I had to own it on Blu-ray. I absolutely adore this film. I think it's one of the finest genre serial killer films that's ever been made. It's up there with Seven and Zodiac.
But you get it though, right? Because it wasn't his dog. It was the. There's the joke.
Okay, I get
okay,
it.
good. I'm glad.
I got it.
No. You own the Blu-ray.
I own the Blu-ray. It's absolutely wonderful. If you haven't seen Memories of Murder, go out and seek it out. Mother is a film that's in the same ilk. Not a film I love as much, but very, very good.
Tell your children not to walk my way.
Why is that?
Tell your children not to hear my words, what they mean, what they say, mother. No, come on, Jesus Christ.
No, moving on.
Mother. No, all right.
Moving on. And then obviously he runs into his breakthrough hit in Korea, The Host. Have you seen The Host?
No.
I think you would.
I would probably love
The Host. The Host is available on Netflix right now. Quentin Tarantino and many people have compared Bong Joon Ho to Spielberg in his prime, with The Host being a comparison to Jaws, which comes up a lot. And I would say I think the comparison of Okja to E.T. comes up a lot as well. The thing is, I don't want to necessarily compare Bong Joon Ho to Spielberg, though I would say certainly there are lots of qualities that make Bong Joon Ho great that remind me of what makes Spielberg so great, which is that he is a filmmaker that is able to play in a very visual effects driven world, but he does it with an artful eye and a real strong. He never loses his sense of character.
Sure,
he is a filmmaker that knows how to make characters interesting within that world. And the reason why Jaws is a great movie isn't because of the shark. We all know that we don't see the shark very often. The reason Jaws is great is because of its characters. I think we mentioned this on the Jurassic Park episode. The reason why the visual effects in Jurassic Park,
World?
No, Jurassic Park. Well, in the Jurassic World episode, we were talking about Jurassic Park.
Copy.
Why Jurassic Park works so well is the performances around all the dinosaurs are interesting and unique, and the characters are are totally fascinating, if I'm going to use a word from the IMDb synopsis of this movie. And I think it's something true of Okja as well.
That is one big pile of shit. Not Okja.
That's Jurassic Park. I got that one. See, if a movie reference,
you understood that reference.
Yeah. If it's a movie reference, I'm with you on board. So I am a.
See, I just did a movie reference about movie references.
What'd you say?
I understood that reference.
Oh,
Avengers. Come on, stick with it. Okay. Let's go.
Movie references that I care about. Bong Joon Ho, absolute wonderful filmmaker. Without peer, I think one of the finest working filmmakers in his class right now. So I was absolutely, and the fact that this movie was coming on Netflix. So just a quick summarization of what happened with Snowpiercer.
What had happened was
Snowpiercer was a huge hit in Korea, and Korea, as we know, is one of the few film industries that doesn't require American imports to survive.
Korea is the cinematic equivalent of the honey badger.
Punching above its weight? I think that's a little condescending.
No, it doesn't give a fuck.
It doesn't give a fuck. Okay, maybe. Yeah, I agree with that. It makes a shit ton of money within Korea, and what had happened was they want Harvey Weinstein, famous Harvey Scissorhands, bought Snowpiercer for American distribution and wanted to lop off 20 minutes at the end because he didn't think American audiences would get it. When Bong Joon Ho kind of said, no, I don't think you should do that. This movie's already a hit in Korea and in France, and it's kind of weird to sell an American audience a different version of this movie that's essentially watered down. Apparently, Harvey Weinstein kind of went, okay, fine, and didn't do a big distribution release on that. So although that film is superb and did get a release uncut, it's not a very widely seen film.
No, but that's one of those movies. You know what I love about it is you go up to a general person or a friend and you like trying to think of a movie to watch that night. And if you suggest Snowpiercer, they'll be like, oh, what's that? Like they've never heard of it. And then you can show it to them. And it's this thing that becomes like one of their sort of like favorite genre films.
Yeah.
And like, that's a great feeling from a if you're known as the movie guy or gal in your sort of circle of friends, and then you can just pull out Snowpiercer out of your butt like no one's ever heard of it, and then people think you're real smart. It's just,
I mean, it's a movie with Chris Evans.
I know.
You know, it's Captain America himself is in it.
Yeah. So I always like that.
But you
aspect
love
of
that
it.
movie, right?
Oh, it's great. It's so good.
It's so good. It's really well executed, and it's so weird. You know, that's the thing. It's such a weird concept for a movie. It's based on a graphic novel.
And if you think about it too long, it does not make sense. But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all. It completely makes sense, and it's completely emotionally resonant as well. Mm-hmm. So, Okja, basically a movie about a giant super pig. And
so a corporation led by Tilda Swinton. Side note, can we just talk? Oh, now we're going to get into spoilers because we're already sort of through it. This is a minor spoiler, but why does Tilda Swinton always have to play twins?
which other movie did she play twins in?
She in what's it called? Hollywood? No, the murder one. Hollywood Land, not Hollywood Land. That's old as shit.
That's Ben Affleck's film.
The one that was just recently about the murder in Hollywood in the 1950s, and Josh Brolin was in it.
Oh, Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar.
Oh, she was twins in that.
And there's one other film I can't place it, but she's been playing twins a lot.
Oh yeah. No.
Anyway, yeah, she is the head of this multinational corporation called Mirando.
Yeah.
And they decide that they have a solution for the world's hunger problems and consumption problems, because standardized cattle is not only, if they mass marketed it, it would destroy the planet and blah, blah, blah. So the film opens with this sort of like bullshit, like very corporate campaign sort of thing to other corporations investing about how they found this beautiful pig in the friggin' jungle somewhere. It's like a mutated pig, and then they were able to breed it, and then they sent it to 26 different countries to see where it would thrive the best. And then it was basically, this whole thing was a PR stunt, and they were collecting the pigs back. They'd already been manufacturing their own pigs, and they're just basically going to use them to make cheap meat for the planet. Now, and Okja is one of those who was sent
in the care of Miha as
and her grandfather.
Yeah,
in Korea. So let's talk a little bit about some moral stuff real quick.
Okay. I was going to get into what you thought of the movie, but
well, it all ties in. I was going to say that, so you look at this pitch from this obviously PR driven woman for her corporation. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because this film and its weird evil corporation it was more believable in its "but we're doing good for the world" message than real corporations that seem to have been in real life lately. And by that I mean, they want these pigs. The bottom line is they want to make money, of course, because it's a corporation. That's what they want to do. That's what everything does. We touched on that in the beginning of the episode. But they're like, this animal leaves a smaller carbon footprint. There's not as much, waste product, and it can feed 20 times that of a normal pig. Mm-hmm. Therefore, if you buy it from us, we can solve the world's hunger issues. Mm-hmm. So it's this weird sort of here's a bunch of good fixes, and we're gonna gloss over the bad. Don't think about the bad.
What are the bad?
Well, the bad is sort of what the meat industry is currently, which is in real life, which is just the demand for beef and chicken and etc. is so great that they have these gigantic breeding farms and slaughterhouses, and the animals' well-being and life and livelihood, not livelihood, they're not making money, they're not buying property. Their existence is just a sea of misery.
Are you vegetarian?
No.
Neither am I.
No.
But I have been, I guess, not toying with vegetarianism, but my wife is vegetarian.
Yep.
And so we go for fairly long stints in my house without having meat.
Sure.
I grew up eating meat, so I enjoy a steak.
I don't think there's anything wrong with eating meat.
But I think what the film is playing around the question of is, if you knew that your meat had a personality, would that change your mind about eating it?
100%. And here's the thing. And I'm not saying, well, oh God, this gets weirdly into psychology, but personality in animals. You can't really put, at least in existing animals, personality 100% on animals. And I understand that there are different behavioral patterns of animals depending on the type of species that we're talking about. But I do believe, and this is coming from a pet owner, I own a cat, a lot of your animal's personality, all you're doing is taking data. You're literally taking
data points and
you're taking precedent and pasting your own self. Or yourself,
you're anthropomorphizing the film.
You're projecting an element of yourself onto a set of patterns of an animal.
Yeah.
So
this is the question of like, would a dog eat you after you died?
Of course. Yeah. And the answer is dogs are different. Yeah. Like all dogs are different. All dogs go to heaven. So movie podcast. So the point is, because I was watching this and Okja as a character was crazy smart. And I'm not talking about like crows figuring out puzzles to get their meat or octopuses figuring themselves way out of like getting out of weird like mazes in jars. I'm talking about Mija falls off a cliff at one point and Okja chases her down and knows to put its paw on a rope to save her and then problem solves to pull the rope over to not only, so this is a complicated physics issue, get her around a log, fall off the cliff himself or herself because she knows that she won't be hurt, that will then flip Mija back up onto the cliff and be fine. So yeah, you know what? I would have problems eating that.
Right.
But that doesn't exist in real life. And this is the really interesting thing about this movie, because it pulls at your heartstrings in a ton of different directions, and you know that Okja is an allegory for the way the actual meat industrial complex works. What threw me was how smart and borderline human-esque Okja's personality was, and its facial expressions and the animation. Shout out Gareth. That it made it more of a human presence than an animal presence. And while that does tug at your heartstrings, or my heartstrings in particular, about like, oh my God, it has feelings. Oh my God, like you can't do this to Okja. You can't do this. At the same time, doing that makes me lose the allegorical sense of this is an allegory for the way horrible things happen in real life, because now we're so separated from real life.
Would you eat a cat?
If I was starving, yes.
Okay. Would you eat your cat?
Yeah, but I only say that because and
sitting in the room right now.
Zoe's sitting right here. She's like, what? I only say that because I know she would eat me if I was dead or dying, and vice versa.
Okay.
And there's a mutual, and this is not, I'm not being funny. This is literally why.
Right.
I love animals. Yeah. I 100% love them, and I would never hurt an animal that is a domesticated thing that's in the charge or care of someone.
Right.
Zoe is a wonderful pet.
Yeah.
I do want, and as much as and this is a weird thing to say, as much as I would love to believe that there is some deep connection that we have, and it all depends on what your definition of deep connection is.
Yeah.
The logical person in me is like, no, this is a series of habits and it's mutually beneficial and we're both enjoying it. So if you know what, if I want to fantasize that I think Zoe really enjoys watching Agent Carter because that's the only TV show she's ever actually sat on my lap and watched start to finish, then I'll believe that because it's mutually beneficial for my entertainment.
I guess what I'm saying is I think it's a really the film by its very nature, and what I love about this film is it touches on all of these subjects without feeling preachy about it. It doesn't feel like it's talking one way about vegetarianism. It doesn't feel like it's talking one way about the meat industry.
Oh, you know what?
It feels like it's, you know.
Hold on, I got to yell at my cat. Zoe! She's scratching the couch.
It feels like it's getting into those issues without having to, like, without being preachy about those issues. It doesn't feel like an issue film.
And do you know why?
At the heart of it, it is a chase movie that just really works.
Why do you think it doesn't feel preachy? And I have an answer for it, but I'm curious why you think it doesn't feel preachy.
I think because it's smart about the complexity of the issue.
Yeah. Sure, and it is smart about the complexity of the issue through making the opposing forces. So Mija's sort of like our character that's just running through and getting pushed and pulled through the story. She's lost at sea. She's all of us, sort of whatever.
Yeah.
The other group, led by oh man, I can't believe
Tilda Swinton.
No, the good guys, the quote good guys.
Oh, the ALF.
ALF played by
Paul Dano and Stephen Yeun.
And just made me want to watch Youth again.
Yeah.
They are an animal activist group that eventually, once the corporation steals Okja back from, or actually takes, they're not stealing, they own Okja.
Yeah.
They rescue her and put a tracker, like a camera on her to like, so then when she goes back to the slaughterhouse, they can prove all the atrocities that the corporation is doing, and then they can blow this whole thing open. And it's this weird sort of like, you know, Occupy activism sort of thing. And you can totally tell. So both sides of this problem, the activists and the corporation, are entirely flawed. Because, and that's what I think makes this film not preachy, because you can see the mistakes that everyone is making.
Yeah, and because the Animal Liberation Front is not treated as though they're the most righteous group in the world. In fact, they're a little dumb and crazy, as is the corporation. The only pure-hearted person in this film is Miha and Okja, which I think is the core center of this film. Yeah. And I think that's why it feels not preachy about that.
Because everyone is making mistakes. Everyone is kind of being stupid other than those two.
And this is what I don't think the film is actually really about vegetarianism. I don't think it's about the meat industry. I think what it's really about is the way in which corporatism and capital, you know, like corporate identity is very different from corporate reality. And that's essentially what the ALF are trying to expose at some point, is that, you know, is that this company, Mirando, wants to put on this happy face, happy pigs, you know, like super pigs. It's all fun and games. They've got this sort of crocodile hunter figure played. I have to say this, I love Jake Gyllenhaal, but I don't know what he was doing in this movie. And this is the one part of the movie that just really didn't work for me.
Fine.
Was
a lot
Jake
of people
Gyllenhaal.
have been saying that. Bob in his review said that as well.
I just think it
didn't bother me.
I like that he was trying to go in a different direction from what he usually does, but I just don't think like, and it's something that Tilda Swinton has done in both Snowpiercer and this film, is she can do like that sort of slightly crazy, bigger than life performance. And I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal, his performance is that, but for some reason it just doesn't quite work for me. It feels like it feels like an affectation as opposed to him really doing it.
I think for the character, and this is just, we don't have to go on this too long, but I think for the character itself, I like
the character.
No, but I'm saying the machinations that he portrays and chooses to do, I think work very well for the character, and I think it's very like, and it would only work for me for a character like that.
Right. I think there's a line that he seems to cross where his performance feels like a performance.
Sure, but there's also a giant CG super pig, so which
is entirely believable.
But I believe the super pig just as much as I believe Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay. I don't buy Jake Gyllenhaal.
The entire sort of world, or the main characters in the world outside of Mija, even her grandfather's a little bit like, kind of like a little bit old man wacky. Like it's just everyone's a little bit wacky.
And I think Jake Gyllenhaal is the one that doesn't quite land for me. But at any rate, I think the film is basically showing that there is a corporate face. There is the Coca-Cola, we're all happy, you know, like sunshine, we're on our roller skates, and that's what it's about. But then there's a reality to it, which is brown sugar water. And brown sugar water at the detriment of the environment, at the detriment of people. And
it's a pity we have to tell all these little white lies.
Yeah, it's a pity we have to tell all these little white lies. And I think what the film is really about is that the distinction between real life and what we present in front of the world. And I think because the complexity of it even comes to the point, which is that Okja, Miha herself and her grandfather are meat eaters. They eat chicken, they eat fish, you know, and they have chicken and fish within their yards that they take care of, that they eventually kill and eat.
Yeah.
So there's a complexity to all of that, which I think the film doesn't shy away from, but is really kind of like opened up for you to interpret. And I, you know, like as both of us talk about, we're both meat eaters that have an affection for animals. And if we saw someone being absolutely cruel to an animal in front of us, we would jump up and do something about it, right? I'm sure if we saw a dog in a parking lot, you know, like left in a window, we would be aghast at the owner. But we buy.
I've never smashed a window for that situation.
Never, but you would.
No, I'm just saying straight up. I've never done that.
Okay, but you have.
I've never done that, Cheer. I don't know why you keep bringing it up.
Okay, well, you're doing that eye thing.
I don't even know. This is an audio medium. I don't even know what you're talking about.
But if we seem to have a blind spot, respectively, for the fact that most of the meat that we eat is probably raised with some degree of cruelty in it.
Yes, and to be honest, for me personally, it's not a blind spot. I try very hard to not eat garbage meat, from what I've understood. Again, this is the hard part though, because I'm trying.
Yeah,
I'm also. You never fully 100% know. Let's go with Chipotle. Okay,
Right,
I eat Chipotle from time to time, and the whole thing on their sign says like the animals are raised and da 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 da. And you know what? I want to believe it.
Yeah.
But the difficulty and the cost of actually doing that. That's rough.
I mean, I buy eggs that say on the box, like cage free range eggs.
Free range is an interesting. So again, this all goes back to corporate advertising and whatnot, because free range as a term, and I forget if the FDA does this or if someone else does this. It doesn't mean like, oh, they're in a chicken yard.
Yeah.
It means their coop, their individual coop, I believe, is 2 feet big.
Right.
As opposed to 1 foot.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, is that we all, I think, all willingly have a blind spot. No, I mean, even if we acknowledge that it's there, we're all willing to kind of accept it in lieu of hunger.
And if it's not animals, it's something else.
Yeah.
I'm not pointing fingers because I do this exact same thing. I just think it's important to realize from time to time that if you are living a comfortable life, you are doing it off the backs of other beings. And that is the case of it.
Louis C.K. has a great bit about that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. So this movie, I do agree. I think that, well, let's put it this way. I think it does all those things. I think your point is the one it does the best.
Yeah.
And the one it does on the most consistently on multiple levels throughout. There's something, and I'll touch on it a little bit more at the end, where the meaning or the feeling you get from this movie changes drastically based on how deep you look into what's going on.
Okay. So that's kind of like going to be our wrapping up point,
which is why I didn't want to get it.
I think this movie is beautifully executed. Bong Joon Ho is just such a great filmmaker. I can't help but gush over everything he does in this film. Just like little details where, for example, I love that every character has seemingly a life outside of the scene that they're in.
Yep. The rights group has the two guys in the background, like one of them refuses to eat anything because he believes that every corporate that's
and there's just a beautiful payoff to that when he's like handed a piece of meat and he almost throws up at the end.
Yeah.
And then you realize that they're in love with each other as well. Like that they have like some kind of relationship.
Yeah, because he goes back and saves him the other guy.
I love as well, but even like lesser characters like the truck driver who's driving Okja, who like decides when they get attacked,
give a shit.
Yeah, when they're attacked by terrorists, he's like, "Fuck it, I don't have workers' comp for this. I don't give a shit." And like the other guy's like, "Well, how about having some loyalty for the company?" He's like, "You guys are fucked. I don't care."
Yeah. And he goes in the news and says, "You're fucked."
Yeah, it's just like every single character, even Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad and Do the Right Thing, by the way. Just like the way in which he knows that he is playing both these people over, and he, Tilda Swinton's character, and he walks over to like make her a coffee while she's having this breakdown and hands it to her. It's just these like little touches. Even the woman who's like manning the door that Mia has to
the
break,
receptionist.
Yeah, that has to break through. I just love all that. I also love like his sense of action is based on minutia. Like little details. And this is where, Spielberg's famous, you see the water ripple in the cup before you see the T-Rex comes into play. I love the fact that like the way in which Mija breaks down that door, and I don't think she does this intentionally, she like slams into it and it reverberates for like another 10 seconds until it actually like bursts.
Right.
I love that when the Animal Liberation Front get attacked, downstairs in the shopping mall, there are darts thrown at them. They open up these like beautiful rainbow colored balloons, and it's
umbrellas.
Umbrellas. Yeah, it's just a beautiful scene, and it's mirrored by Mija looking at Paul Dano's character pulling out a piece of glass from Okja's foot, which mirrors something she did earlier. He's just got a real sense of how to keep character focused within those scenes,
and he also makes sure that all the characters that are not audience ciphers or emotional driven or purely emotional sort of fodder and feed. He makes sure that all characters are answerable to their actions and flawed. So, for instance, Glenn from Walking
Stephen
Dead,
Yeun's character.
basically they're in the truck and they laid out the entire plan to Misha to how they're going to put the camera on Okja and then they're going to be able to release it and then they're going to rescue blah blah blah. And she says, I just want to go back to the mountains with Okja. And then it's like she agrees. And then that was your quote.
Translation is sacred.
Translation
And then
is
he comes
sacred.
back later and has that tattooed on his head.
Like this, it's a wonderful, it's sort of a wonderful sort of nod to that. But it also like he lied to get his shit across I mean at a smaller scale, but just like Tilda Swinton's character's lying to get her shit across. Like everyone is at fault other than Misha and Okja in this movie, and everyone well, a lot of the characters have to answer for their lies and answer for their shit.
And I just I just think this is that thing, like where I think this movie is a ton of fun. I absolutely adored it. I think the realization of Okja was wonderful. Like every time Okja was on screen there's this opening scene with Okja like walking through the forest.
It's like 15 minutes.
Yeah. And I just think that this is wonderful
Felt
writing.
Like Jungle Book.
It was wonderful writing and wonderful filmmaking and wonderful execution. I was just in love with this character. I was in love with this time. And I was like, I couldn't care less if the film just stayed here for 2 hours, kind of just their daily adventures. It was so good. That the film kind of goes on beyond that is just sort of icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And it's a smart movie as well. I think this is a good case study for a film being fun without having to be dumb. Like it is a smart, well played, and it's not trying to it's not overly ambitious in terms of like trying to get a certain message across. It is playing within the complexity of a situation with the right degree of nuance as required for the story it's trying to tell.
Yeah, I think the term, what did you just say about overly obsessed with sort of getting a message across? I think there's some obsession about messages. I just think...
Like what did you think was preachy or messagey?
Well, it's sort of all the stuff we've said before, but it's counteracted by sort of, I think, painting everyone as their like a bit of a villain, which I kind of enjoy. And also the act of so, and again, this goes even back to that, and then I know we're getting in on about we're over an hour at this point, but this is what I do want to say about it. It's like, so the end of the movie happens, right?
Yeah. What was the thing that like made
this
you
is
turn?
it all sort of and it didn't turn. I didn't dislike the film for it by any means of the imagination. So the end of the movie happens, and they mount. They go to the slaughterhouse. They're screaming for Okja, and she goes into the slaughterhouse, and they basically she's put into the machine where she gets shot in the head to then be meated up. And Tilda Swinton's sister, Henrietta. No, I don't even remember the character's name.
Yeah, her twin sister,
Helen. Maybe
Lucy and Nancy.
Yeah. So Nancy's now in charge of the company because her publicity stuff. Lucy's disgraced and blah blah blah. So they run up there and she's like, "Why is it still dead? Like we have a deadline to make." She gives this whole speech about we are a company, we are buyers and sellers, we sell things. Blah 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 blah. And then the actual solution and how Misha manages to save Okja is she has a golden pig that her grandfather had bought with all of the money that the corporation had given them to take care of Okja.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Here, I want to buy Okja and I want to go home." And then instantly after they check that it's gold, Nancy's like, "Oh, okay, great, doing business with you. All right, awesome," and walks away.
Yeah.
And then Okja and Misha leave, and then there's a moment where more hyper intelligent meat buckets, basically, more super pigs, get one of their like kids through the fence to save it, and Okja picks it up in its mouth to try to sneak it out, and they all go back and they live together on the grandfather's farm. Now it's a happy ending for Okja, the little baby, and Misha. And if you just look at it in that sort of way, like, yeah, it's a happy ending, and she was able to save her friend, and like it was really good. But you know what was the machination that allowed her to save her friend? Capitalism.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, the bad guys still won. There's no damage to their status quo. The AFL or whatever the heck they were, ALF didn't do shit. And they just sort of like moved on. And now, so it's the argument of how much do you need? How much good, quote, do you need to do for the good, quote, to matter? And
this is interesting.
It's because, and I'll just sorry, I'll just wrap it up. And again, in no way did this ruin the film for me. It's just it's very interesting that you can watch it and have a happy ending if you're like, oh, she saved Okja, that's great. Yeah. But then if you think about it in a real world context and sort of in what actually happened to save Okja, there's a shit ton of suffering going on right off frame, and there's nothing that any of these characters can do about it, and it's just it's actually, even though the best friends are together on a micro level, it's happy, but on a macro level, it is very sad. And I think there's something skilled in the director's sort of ability to do that and to have it work on both levels. If you want this movie to have a happy ending, it kind of does for you. And if you think about it deeper, you're going to have sort of a Empire Strikes Back-esque kind of shit going on.
Okay. It's interesting. That's not the thing that I thought would have upset you or kind of just thrown you off a little bit.
It didn't throw me off. It's just it's a sad representation, and a true one, which is why it's sad, of life.
Yeah, and I to me, that was the thing that kind of made the movie great. The thing that actually I didn't like work for me was Nancy's accepting of the gold pig. I felt like the gold pig was kind of a slightly clunky.
It was perfect. It was so perfect, because literally all Misha had to do from the beginning. Well, actually, it wouldn't have been from the beginning because the sisters were different and there was different ideologies. But the ideology that Nancy was, and she was depicted in the entire movie, was money, bottom line, corporate, whatever.
Right.
And the value of one super pig after the announcement, and after they have a slaughterhouse full of them that they're going to sell for pennies on the fucking, they're going to make profits off these things like nothing. The value of one pig entirely, in Nancy's brain, she's like, this is the best deal ever. Why would I even fucking bother with this shit? Yeah, you own the pig. Congratulations. You just paid me 500 times its worth.
Right. I guess it's
perfect.
It works, but I think it kind of like it's slammed together very quickly in a way that I kind of didn't.
I think that's the point. I honestly do, because the solution.
I can buy your reasoning.
The solution is capitalism.
Yeah.
And holy shit, all this heart and like, I really want to try, and me and my friends are trying to save this shit. Didn't fucking work. You know what did work? Money.
Yeah.
And that is the most realistic and the most sad thing in this film, and it's heartbreaking.
And I think the thing is that the film does acknowledge the thing that you said, which is that even though we have saved the day here, there is a ton of horror going on behind this, and that's the scene, that heartbreaking scene where the two other super bigs throw off their young, to save it. It's like kind of almost it's like that scene in Saving Private Ryan where the parents throw their kids to the soldiers, and then we see all the super pigs kind of like wail in one uniform voice, and we realize that they have identity, personality, and feeling.
At the end of the movie, you're not quite sure if Okja can talk.
Yeah. Well,
because there's a bunch of mini scenes where Misha is whispering something into Okja's ear.
Right.
And then at the end of the movie, Okja leans in to Misha and like moves her mouth and in a way that mimics talking.
Huh.
In the same way that Misha did it to her the entire time.
I thought now I'll have to watch it again. So I saw this movie 2 weeks ago, but I thought it was I thought she repeated the whisper to Okja. Like she continues to whisper in Okja's ear.
Oh, no. At the end of this film, Okja whispers in her ear.
Huh.
In the same manner. Now, you're not sure if she said anything.
Yeah. It might have just been like a...
Yeah, but it didn't make that noise. It was the same no audio mouth movement.
Yeah. So I'll have to watch that again.
It hints at the fact that, oh, fuck, maybe she can talk.
But see, that's to me, okay, so for me, the pig thing... I like the reasoning that you gave for it, as in that money is the thing that solves this problem, not morality. But it kind of felt a little clunky delivered to me in my mind. Like just her accepting the gold in this heat of this moment.
I think it makes total sense, though.
I accept your rationalization of it. I felt it was a little clunky. And Jake Gyllenhaal's performance was a little clunky.
Sure.
For me.
I want to say the moment with the golden pig wasn't clunky. It was clunky. It was utilitarian. It was industrial. It is exactly what Nancy is.
Right.
And that is why I think it works.
I completely buy that rationalization. I think that's a good way to read that scene. But again, I think the execution, the overall the overall sense that this film has of playing in a world where these issues are important. It's in much the same way that the host, you haven't seen the host yet, but the host deals with environmental concerns in a way that is not preachy, but is part of the fabric of that story.
Right.
And I think, and even Snowpiercer is, the part of the fabric of that story is the environmental breakdown of the planet as we know it. But it doesn't.
Oh my God. Is this a prequel to Snowpiercer?
Is this do you think super pigs are the things that destroy the world?
Well, I mean, I'm saying if they're worried about carbon footprint and everything, what if it's already past that breaking point?
Right.
What if the global cooling, warming, or whatever the fuck happened?
If you can trace the line from
And
barking
what
dogs never bite all the way to Okja.
And what if Tilda Swinton's character is just like the great granddaughter of her character in Snowpiercer?
Sure.
Oh shit.
I mean,
blew this open.
Yeah, everything needs to be a cinematic universe.
It's the Okja, it's the Snowpiercer cinematic universe.
Yeah. I absolutely adore this film. The argument that Cannes has that this is not a film worthy of the awards seems silly to me. Seems petty and
bullshit.
And it seems like a strange conversation to get into, but it's a wonderful film. See it on the biggest screen as you can because of Bong Joon Ho. This film was also shot by Darius Kanji, who also shot movies like Seven. So it's a delicatessen, The Immigrant. This is a beautiful looking film, a beautiful sounding film. I love the score in this movie. It's everything. Like Netflix has just given us what might be one of my favorite films of the year at this point. And it's a Netflix original release.
And I agree. I think the things that I thought made it sort of falter away from sort of being a powerful message piece, which it doesn't necessarily have to be in certain regards, but like the meat industry is how intelligent Okja is, and in the way it sort of becomes a little bit more of a humanistic character, and all the things I laid out before. But that didn't ruin it.
Could you wave that away in the notion that she's a super pig of some kind? She's a genetically modified super pig.
It's just there's a different argument between eating something mass market and torturing something with like a full set of personality and feelings and whatever versus an animal. And not that the animals are good. In fact, in a way, doing that to a beast that doesn't have those sort of things is far worse.
It doesn't excuse it.
But what I'm saying is it takes it out of that realm of realism for me to make a complete one-to-one analogy. Now, what I do think would work excellently, because you can't, for instance, show a kid forks over knives. You can't show a kid like films that deal with this animal abuse shit, right? You can't like show like a child a documentary that shows slaughterhouses and shit because it would just scar them for life.
Okay.
You could at a certain age, if you wanted to sort of start to breach the conversation about like where food comes from and that sort of thing, like there is elements of this. I'm not saying like young, but like this could be a nice midpoint to get those ideas across. Like your food comes from like meat comes from animals, and I know we've told you this and we've talked about it a little bit. It could be like a bridging tool, but it definitely doesn't get that job done completely. Right. I think the bottom line is everyone should see this. You should see it on Netflix, and like you said, the biggest screen possible. But it is not going to be the kind of movie that like changes the way you deal or interact with the way you get your food.
Right, but I don't think it's trying to be.
I don't think
it's trying to be that film.
It's not due to the fact that I don't know. I think there's an underlying tone, or maybe we're just conditioned to feel that films that deal with this topic are all trying to do that. That's possible. And again, I don't think this is a detriment to it saying that it's not going to change your mind about eating cage-free whatever, or not cage-free whatever, or GMOs or whatever. I just think if you've seen the trailer and you're going in looking for something like that, like, oh my God, like, oh, you're going to show it to a friend, like, you're never going to eat fucking steak again. Like, that's not going to be this movie. It's just wonderful.
But go watch Food Inc. if you want that.
It's a wonderful film, and you should watch it and fall in love with some super pigs.
How crazy is it? I mean, like, in the spectrum of the summer movies we've done so far, I know we don't like to do rankings that much, but how would, like, if this was playing in a movie theater right now, where do you think, would you highly recommend it to people to go see over, like if they had one movie to see in the month?
No, that would go. Well, it depends on the person, to be honest. That's a hard question. Baby Driver is phenomenal. I think Baby Driver, I think, is a film that would appeal to a larger audience than Okja. Do I think it's a more effective, poignant, whatever film, or did I enjoy it more or less? I think that's sort of different spectrums. And depending on if people were Marvel heads like me, if it was one movie a month, I'd say, yeah, see Spider-Man, you dummy. So it just all depends, and it's an unfair question, and I just gave an unfair answer.
Right. No, I think it's amazing that Netflix to this point has gone into the place where it is, you know, like
it's comparable. It's all
comparable. That's the thing. And I would, for me personally, I would say this is the film of the films we've reviewed. Like starting with Wonder Woman, Baby Driver, Spider-Man, and then this. I would say this. This is the film,
and I would not fault you for that.
Yeah.
I don't think mine would be the same.
No, you can pick whichever you want. But what's amazing to me is that the one that I picked is available on Netflix right now. And
I think it's great. Watch it. You all have accounts, and if you don't, this is weird.
And saying that Martin Scorsese is just about to roll film on the biggest Netflix movie ever, The Irishman. So we're getting into this. This conversation about distribution is getting a little silly when the biggest movies on the planet may appear on a platform immediately.
It's going to be great. We live in the future. This has been the only podcast about the film Okja. Shahir, when you're not falling in love with super pigs, where can folks find you?
You can find me fawning over animals on my website, www.shahirdowd.com.
It's all kitten gifts.
Yeah, kitten gifts and dog memes is what I do. And you can write us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod. We really appreciate all those letters, those requests that we get. We really keep sending those in. They really help us out.
Did you guys like having sort of a mailbag episode in the beginning? Do you want us to sort of do like one an episode? Let us know. Write us in.
Matt, when you are contemplating the death of your lovely black cat and how many ways you can kill her, where could people find you?
When I'm doing that, I'm never doing that, so you're not going to find me anywhere.
You would kill your cat. You would eat your cat. You said that.
Yeah, but only because she would eat me, and only in similar situations. Like if I died and then she ate me, I would have no problem. If she died and I was starving, I would eat her.
Okay, so when you're not doing that.
So literally every other time. So if it's not the apocalypse, you can find me at MatthewKroll.com. That's MatthewKroll.com. Emperor MSK on Twitter, or Skeletor, the number 4 PREZ on Instagram for my life and works. And guys, we will see you next week, where we're going to record it when it's not 1 a.m.
I bet you'll be 1 a.m.
Shit. We'll talk to you then.
Bye-bye.